If I have to ask you why you do what you do on a daily basis, like going to work, for example, there has to be a reason for why you do what you do. There has to be some kind of motivation. For example, going to that job that you don't like, going to that job that you maybe even hate, you still do it. And you might even be good at doing it, even though you don't enjoy it. There always is a reason for why you do what you do. And if I have to stick on the topic of your job or your occupation, the reason is for most people the salary or the money. And while of course I appreciate that getting a salary is vital, getting a salary is important to surviving, it's still something that we consider extrinsic motivation. So some examples of extrinsic motivation include doing things for money, for status, for fame, for attention, for praise. Basically, you're doing what you're doing because you're motivated by something external. And if you're making a good salary, especially in those early moments when you just signed that contract and you've just become that permanent or full-time employee in this role, and you've got your first payday, most of the time you're over the moon to be making the money that you're making, or you're over the moon that you've achieved this position. In that moment, you're extrinsically motivated. However, and I've seen this with so many people, it doesn't take long before you start noticing things about the job that you dislike. You start noticing things that make you want to start complaining. You start noticing things that make you feel negative. You start noticing things that are beginning to drain that happiness that you felt right at the beginning when you landed that job or when you got that salary for the first time. And then in that moment, the worst and most counterproductive thing you could do is to chase more money or chase other things that extrinsically motivate you, because you find yourself going through the same cycle and repeating the same steps again. You'll find things that extrinsically motivate you. You will be happy for a short period of time, and then it won't long. And then it won't be long before you start picking out things that you don't like and start looking elsewhere for happiness in other extrinsically motivational areas. The most sustainable and constructive way to address this is to enjoy what you do. And there is a difference between enjoying what you do and forcing yourself to enjoy what you do. And of course, no prizes here for the right answers. The better one of the two is to genuinely and organically enjoy what it is that you're doing. And of course, people can learn to enjoy new things, and they can learn to start appreciating and liking new things. But most of the time, if you don't enjoy your job and you don't enjoy what you do, then that's exactly what it is. You don't enjoy it, and you probably never will. The trick is to shift from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation and begin to become motivated and stimulated by internal stimuli. It's the same with motivation for exercising and trying to get your body into better shape. Wanting to do it for yourself, wanting to do it for your own health and for your own confidence is much better and much more effective than wanting to do it because of what other people think. And you could be someone that values what other people think, but it's so much easier to sustain the discipline and the consistency if the motivation comes from within you, because you should be what you value most. So instead of doing things for money, praise, status, and attention, start doing things for meaning, for belonging, for love, and for emotional connection. Let's go back to the example of doing a job that you don't like. If you're doing a job that you don't like because you need to provide for your family, it's easier to find peace in that job than if you're just doing that job that you don't like for money, because it's an intrinsic motivation, because you're doing it because you love them, because you do it because you have a connection to your family. And that means it's easier to find peace and happiness in that job because it's something that's coming from intrinsic motivation. Whereas if you're just doing it for money and you're not doing it for the love or the connection of your family, you'll find more unhappiness in that job easier because it's extrinsically motivating. Doing something that you're intrinsically motivated to do just has a much higher chance of yielding a result of happiness while you're doing it. And of course, I understand the realities of life. Of course, sometimes we do things that we don't want to do, and sometimes we do things that we don't like, and the uncontrollables force our hand. I get that. I understand that. That's the reality of things. But that doesn't mean that you can't begin trying, or at least trying to plan a way to change the way that things are. Start small and then shift onto the bigger parts of your life. In the one hand, you can try to make it happen and you can try your best to make it work, put in the effort. And on the other hand, you can make excuses. Find what intrinsically motivates you and do what makes you happy. Life is too swift and it's too short to not do what truly makes us happy. So make it happen for yourself.